the village, I think I heard.
Sorry, I'm in Vancouver and not. Can somebody go first while I figure this out, please?
It's working now.
No, we can hear you. Go ahead.
On and off. Go ahead.
Okay, do you want to check and see if Councilor Ryder is still on the line?
He is, but I think it's sounds like a signal strength issue.
Okay. Okay, Councilor Cunliffe, you're up.
I don't really have much in discussion. So.
Okay. Councilor Ryder, are you back online?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, I've looked at the rainfall totals as well. I mean, I think we're getting close. We've got some rainy weather coming. I mean, I think we've covered a lot of this ground in the previous meeting. We've had a total of 19 millimeters of rainfall in Squamish for the month of September and 20 millimeters in the West Van. So if you average that out, yeah, we're at about 5/8 of an inch. We know from the provincial minister of forests that we are going to be in a period where wildfires that do occur are much more statistically likely to be human than lightning caused by virtue of the season. I think we may be we're getting close. I'd be much more comfortable seeing some more water on the ground. I know it's we're all waiting for that. We've got cooler weather, but I think we're not quite there yet. I think be more comfortable revisiting this as we had originally scheduled at the next regular council meeting. And then we can take a peek at how much wetter we've gotten.
Okay, Councilor Broughton.
I continue to take the position that we should be, that council should not be involved in this process. I believe that we, for all the best intentions and all the best reasons, did close the trailheads on August the 22nd. But in reviewing, on August the 19th, which was Saturday, there were huge fires in British Columbia. And there was a real concern. I was very concerned about Lions Bay. I sent an email at that time to two councillors who were on our emergency preparedness group and said, have you heard any concerns from the fire chief or emergency preparedness regarding the trailways? And which led to a polling of the emergency preparedness coordinator and the fire chief. And basically that was on Saturday morning, August 19th. By Sunday morning, August the 20th, emails had been dispatched, results had come back. And basically what we heard was that the emergency preparedness coordinator was in this ongoing discussions with the province. Our fire chief did not feel that it was appropriate to close the trailways. And so by 10:25, I think on Sunday morning, 10:19, in fact, basically we heard back from the emergency programs people that there was not justification to close the trailways. However, what happened was we did have a meeting scheduled for August 22nd to discuss the hiring of our CAO or contract matters to do with the CAO. So we did add an item to that agenda to review the safety of the village. And out of an abundance of caution, we decided, and against the advice of our public works manager, we closed the access ways to the trails, closed the parking, which closed the access ways to the trails. And that was implemented very ably by the Public Works for that weekend. The following Tuesday, the mayor had now returned from overseas and had been in discussions with the fire chief, the Public Works, or pardon me, the Emergency Programs Coordinator, and also Metro Vancouver staff, all of whom were saying that we should be reviewing the opening of the the closures that we had in place, and in fact, we should be opening. And as a result of that meeting, we established a meeting on the 31st of August to open the trails. The motion on the floor at that time was to open the trails, or open the parking, I should say. What happened at that meeting, however, that motion did fail, and then there was a subsequent motion brought forward, which is what we're discussing, in fact, tonight. And that's the ongoing closing of the trails. So what happened at the meeting on the 31st, we had a very extensive presentation from our fire chief, also from our emergency programs person. And the fire chief went over his recommendation and the fact that ultimately said that you're probably better to have people in, up, able to report a fire than to have them not up and able to report a fire. Anyway, ultimately both the experts that we would normally depend upon, the emergency program coordinator and the fire chief, were both recommending that we open the parking and allow access to the trails. They also at that meeting, I believe on the 29th, the process was explained to us how in other jurisdictions, in fact, virtually every other jurisdictions, there is the information is collected by emergency programs and fire chief people, and in the event that there should be a closure, that is recommended to the CAO. Because we did not have a CAO on the 22nd, we proceeded as a council. The motion today is that we would consult with experts. I would put forward that the experts in this case are our emergency program coordinator and all the associated people he can consult with, and also the fire chief. And so I received a message from the seat chair, and his statement for today is that based on conversations with other jurisdictions and Chief Barrett's explanation to council regarding how fires behave, the trailheads should not be closed for wildfire reasons unless the fire chief deems it necessary. In addition, the decision to close the trailheads for any reason should be made by operations and not by council. That is the process that I just described, which includes the CAO, who we now have in place. So my understanding is that the fire chief has not changed his position. In fact, he has explained that he's even more convinced that the explanation he gave us on August the 31st was correct. And I believe the mayor has been in discussions with the fire chief. I have not. So I assume that when the mayor speaks, he may have more information in that regard.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Broughton. Councillor Abbott?
Thanks. I was not planning a long speech. I thought this would be pretty quick, but I guess a few things I'm going to need to say.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Abbott.
A few things I just need to say. First of all, I'd like to comment on Tamara's questions about evacuation plan. As one of the 5 authors, there's another one in the room, of the document that's now been called our evacuation plan. I can categorically state it is not an evacuation plan. Tamara is right. Our various EPCs have told us that, including the current one. We have work to do. We're trying to get a meeting set up for October based on Phil's travels. And I hope we'll get an evacuation plan done really soon. That forward-facing, village, resident-facing brochure, as it was described, is missing all the points Tamara mentioned. And we need that done. It's years late, and we need to do it as a priority. However, I'm told Phil's now waiting for new criteria. I find that a little problematic. I think we need to do something now. But we'll leave that for an EPC meeting. As to, I'm not going to go into explaining my position in the previous meetings, or the last meeting. I think that's all there. It's a matter of the record. For me, it's been about two things. It was a council decision, so it was a council decision to remove it. It's about, it was about the weather, and it was about the risk created by the number of hikers. I was hoping that we'd be in this meeting and full weather would be here and upon us, and it isn't, but it is forecast. We know we had a bit of rain the other day. We know we've got a bit of rain on Saturday, and then we have another dry day. But then the following week, we have what looks like in the forecast, steady fall weather. A day of rain, a day of clear, a day, 2 days of rain, as we all know what happens here. So I see that in the forecast. I also realize that it's, the days are cooler now. We're not having those warm temperatures. Mornings a little dewy. But I do agree with both Marcus and Tamara. The forest isn't wet yet. I would like to have been there when we made the decision. So for me, it's a matter of timing. I came into this meeting thinking we could forecast next week's weather and we could pick a day to open the trails now. And I'm still at that point. I don't think we need to delay it to another council meeting. I would like to see us open them and just decide when based on the weather forecasts. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, I'll give the final comments and then we'll call the question. In regards to the emergency response plan that was mailed out, whether it's a draft or whether it's a complete plan, it was mailed out in 2022. I included it in the agenda, the last agenda. If any residents want to look back, and I also suggested that we post that on the village update so that people could see that. It will be updated, I acknowledge that, but there is a plan out there, whether it's in draft form.
Through the chair, if I could.
Through the chair,
My understanding is that what we're talking about as evacuation plan, quote unquote, is actually called the community emergency plan.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, and I will say that was acknowledged by the emergency response. And he did say it is in the process of being updated. And there is also an additional document that's in draft form, and that'll continue to be in draft form because it will be revised on an ongoing basis. So I want to make it clear that there is a document out there. Now, whether it's the final document, that's the question.
through the chair, can I just give some clarity?
Yes, Councillor Abbott.
The community emergency plan that is out there that Mary and Phil came up with doesn't even mention the word evacuation. It is not an evacuation plan. The evacuation brochure from May 2021, I had was one of the 5 authors, as was Fred, went out in May 2021, not 2022. It is called the evacuation brochure.
Okay.
And the evacuation plan is Annex C of our emergency plan, which the draft was in 2022. Annex C does not exist. It's not even a draft. It's not one word typed. We have not done an evacuation plan yet. We're late on it. We need to get one.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's the clarity. Okay.
So for clarity, it's not called an evacuation plan. It's called an evacuation brochure, and it was mailed out to every resident in the village in 2022. And it was posted in the last, sorry.
Stuck in mailboxes.
You're out of order, Councillor Abbott. You let me speak now. You had your motion, you had your time. I'm the last speaker on the list. Thank you. Okay, so the evacuation brochure is clear. I'll move on to the agenda motion at hand. And I will reiterate what Councillor Broughton has said. The experts that we defer to, and that is the Lions Bay Fire Chief, the Emergency Response Coordinator, Metro Vancouver representative, and the Public Works Manager, all have said in the past that the trail should not be closed. I have a document from our fire chief that I received this morning, an email, and he feels stronger than ever that the trails should be open. In addition, I've communicated with the Metro Vancouver emergency representative. He also believes the trails should be open. Our emergency response representative believes the trails should be open. I believe that we shouldn't have councillors or residents speculating on the weather. What we should do is we should look and follow the experts' recommendations. And this is a fundamental point of us as councillors and mayor. We need to defer to the experts, get their opinion. And in this case, the experts are supposed to be directing our staff. So I'll leave it at that. We're not in extreme conditions. We don't meet the criteria to close the trails. So I would like to see added or amended on this resolution, a decision point that we open the trails or the trailheads to hikers immediately. And that's the motion. Okay, can I call the question with the amendment?
If I could,
Vote on the
Yes.
amendment.
sorry, just to be clear, so we just have a moment here.
Mhm.
So my recommendation to council is if that's what you wish to do, don't amend this because it's a separate resolution.
Okay,
You're proposing you're proposing the motion that the trails be open forthwith, sort of. Is that what you said?
yes,
So then if you're making that motion, you need a seconder to bring it,
okay,
and then you can vote on it. You can speak to it,
okay.
that motion, or just go
That's right. Is that motion superseding this motion then? Or are we voting on this?
Or is this motion done?
That motion is to only bring the matter forward.
Okay, so the motion that we've been discussing has no decision point.
It's simply to
It's
bring them out
simply
for
discussion. So
Thank you.
We carried out that discussion. The motion on the table is to open the trailheads to hikers immediately. Do I have a second?
I would second that motion.
Okay, discussion. Or can I call the question?
Yeah, I'll go first if there's going to be discussion.
Okay, we'll go Councillor Abbott, then we'll go Councillor Reuter, then we'll go Councillor Cunliffe, Councillor Broughton, and then I'll follow up. Okay, Councillor Abbott.
As I said, I would like to have seen some true fall weather because I think that's the decision point for me. And I can see that in the future. And I believe the hiker numbers are down, I know they're down, and schools have gone back. That was the other concern for me. We're not going to get 2,000 people a day now, but they certainly are going to pick up. So I'm okay with us going forward with that resolution. Although I would prefer to see maybe a few days later, but I'll go ahead with it.
Okay, Councillor Reuter, you're up.
Yeah, first of all, to the earlier claims that there is an evacuation plan, I just want to reiterate that
Sorry,
that has been much
that is
bandied
not-
about.
That's discussion. You're out of
I have
order,
the floor.
Councillor Reuter. Please stick to the motion. The
I
motion
have
is
the floor.
to open the trailheads to the hikers immediately. Stick to the motion, please.
Do I have the floor?
You do, but stick to the motion, please.
We have no evacuation plan. I just want to make that clear and have not had one. I'm uncomfortable attending a meeting where we are reviewing relevant data and all I see are papers being waved around in the air. That if there is relevant data, that should have been placed before council for consideration, whether that come from the EPC chair or the fire chief. I have not received anything like that, so that would have certainly been helpful in our deliberations. As I said before, I think it wouldn't hurt anybody to be abundantly cautious and defer this for consideration until the next council meeting, at which we hope that we will have had sufficient rain to make residents have a degree of comfort that we are going to remove the parking restrictions. And again, we should be clear here. A lot of people talk about closing trails or opening trails. That's never what this has been about. It's been about limiting parking to limit risk. It's that simple. So that would be my statements on this thus far.
Okay. Councillor Cunliffe.
I'm ready to just have the vote called.
Okay, Councillor Broughton.
I totally support the recommendations of our emergency programs coordinator and our fire chief, and suggest that we move forward with the recommendations to reopen parking. which would increase the access to the trails. So I support the motion.
Okay, I'll just follow up again, just for clarity. We don't have an evacuation plan. We have an evacuation brochure, which was mailed out to every single resident in this community and will be posted on our village update as of the last meeting. Second, I am very encouraged, Councillor Reuter, to hear you acknowledge that our experts should be listened to, and their recommendations, best practices, and scientific.
Please don't
should be consulted.
mischaracterize. Point of order. Please do not mischaracterize what I'm
can you
saying.
please let me finish?
No,
Councillor
please
Reuter,
don't
I didn't interrupt
mischaracterize.
you.
Yeah,
Councillor Reuter, I did not
Please
interrupt
do not
you.
mischaracterize what I'm
Reuter,
saying.
I did
Thank
not
you.
interrupt you.
Certainly,
Can
that's
you
your
please
habit.
let me finish?
Please stop it.
Councillor
Stop
Reuter, can
misrepresenting
you
what I say.
please cease
Thank
from
you.
interrupting?
Respectfully,
Okay.
Chair, could you not quote Councillor Reuter? He's here to speak for himself.
How else do I silence someone when they're interrupting in the middle of the opportunity for the mayor to speak? I respectfully gave every councillor an opportunity to speak. Now I'm being interrupted continuously. How would you like
Because
me
you're
to handle that?
mischaracterizing what I'm saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would like everyone to speak for
Okay.
themselves, and I would not like you to
So,
speak, Councillor.
and he was interrupting my opportunity to speak, and you are doing the same right now. I'm asking for the respect to finish this, and then I'll call a question.
Orders of the day.
Thank you. Okay, so I respectfully defer to our advisors and experts, and once again, they have recommended that these trails should be open. I've been disappointed up to this date, but I'm encouraged with what I'm hearing. So I'll call the question. All those in favor of opening the trails immediately, or the trailheads immediately,
Removing the parking restrictions.
and removing the parking restrictions? All those in favor?
Yes.
Okay, we have an aye from Councillor Broughton, Councillor Cunliffe, that was an aye.
Yes.
Councillor Reuter,
Opposed.
okay, Councillor Abbott,
I'm going to abstain. I
okay,
think the timing is wrong.
I am for it.
Can't abstain, sorry. If I could,
Sorry, yes,
Why can't you
you
abstain?
can't abstain. So if you don't vote, that's a vote in. Okay.
And I feel you well as council.
okay, so then just
Don't agree with the whole.
clarity, Councillor Abbott has abstained, and that will be a vote for. So we have four voting, four councillors and a mayor, or three councillors and a mayor voting for. Councillor Reuter is opposed. The motion is carried. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Public participation.
Pardon me, public.
Apologies, public participation.
Before you do, I wonder if I could beg the indulgence of council for me just to give you an info item. It's a good news info item. Everyone can go home happy. So I'm happy to say I had some fairly high expectations from council to make some significant change, and by Friday was the challenge. So I'm delighted to tell you that we are establishing a village administration 360 review committee comprised of staff representing components of the organization as a whole. The mandate is to look at our processes and procedures to make sure that we are optimizing the quality and timeliness of service delivery for the taxpayers, the residents of this community. So stay tuned. We hope to bring forward some fantastic ideas for improvements in the coming weeks.
So this is committee of staff.
Staff.
Good news.
That's fabulous. Thank you very much, Ross, and you exceeded our expectations. We were giving you Friday and you've done it by Thursday, so thank you very much. We appreciate that. Okay, we'll open the gallery up for questions. 2 minutes, if you could please keep it to 2 minutes. Anyone in the gallery?
Just a comment.
Please announce who you are so everyone.
Yeah, thanks. You'll probably be surprised by my response, and I'm not doing a 360 or a 180 or whatever you want, but I think this whole debate is bringing up a shortcoming in the village that we have, and that is we don't have the process in place to deal with the situation of forest fire and all these evacuation issues. I think this would have been a much simpler situation had the emergency program committee got together gather all the information and criteria from all the experts around. And then our emergency program committee would report to staff who hopefully will pass our information on to council. I think this has been needlessly difficult because it jumped a step. And it jumped a step because we don't have the documentation in place. We don't have the emergency plan in place well enough. It needs updating. We haven't established what the criteria really are. And until we get all that stuff done, we're going to keep butting heads and everything, trying to think, well, this is right and that's not. So I would suggest that we plan to make our plans and we plan for the future. And we look at this, how difficult this was, and use that as an example of why we need to get organized and have it methodically and criteria based on how are we going to determine when we want to close, whatever. Yes.
Fred, thank you for those comments. I will add that I know the emergency response committee will play an integral role. However, my understanding is the fire chief will be the ultimate individual or representative that will instruct the staff. So it will be in conjunction with the emergency response, but it is the fire chief who bears the responsibility, is my understanding. And that is how it's done in all the other communities in Metro, the 21 communities. And I think that, I know our fire chief, I heard firsthand, he took a lot of heat from other fire chiefs and other emergency response individuals throughout Metro Vancouver and also through Howe Sound, because we were an outlier in making this decision and we weren't applying science. So thank you very much for your comments. Appreciate that.
To that, our fire chief has broad shoulders. I'm not worried about him taking the heat. He can take a lot more than you've dished out here. I worked with him for years, so I know because I'm gamers. Oh, great. A question if I could. Ross, do you have a relative who does emergency fire plans?
You know, that's a bit of a, if I could actually. Thanks. You know, I have relatives that pop out of the woodwork all the time, some that I'm glad to know, some that I sort of understand with their presence with shock. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not aware of a black relative.
Fred, thank you very much for that. Appreciate that. Okay, any questions from the gallery? Okay, I don't see any hands. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Yes,
All in favor?
yes.
Opposed?
You got a hand.
We do have a hand. I'm sorry, can you?
Okay, we'll take one question and then we will adjourn the meeting. We'll call the question to adjourn the meeting. The individual with your hand up, you'll have to unmute.
Is it Cosgrave? Where is she though?
The individual that had your hand up for the question, you'll have to unmute.
It was right here, but she may have an error. Okay, perhaps it's an error.
Right, okay, we have no hand.
We have no hands.
Okay, I think someone had a question, but unfortunately, you seem to have lost connection.
Hey, you guys, if it was for me, Tanya, I did not have my hand up, or if I did, it was inadvertent. So dismiss it if you got it.
Thank you
Sorry
very much.
about that. Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor of adjourning the meeting?
So
Opposed? Carried.
unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. What date were you looking at? What date were you looking at? Next week?
Yeah. I mean, before we start.
All right.
Focus on Monday.
Sorry.